Okay, so I'm going to talk about a thing called AnyList. All right. Now, what is AnyList? I mean, this is not something that's big like Microsoft Office or Numbers or Pages or any of the Apple software. It started out to be a little app that we started using a while back, and I'm really impressed with how they've come along with it. Okay, what is it? Okay. It works on Mac OS, iOS, Watch, Windows, Android, lots of different things. And the surface, it appears that its basic job is to make lists of things. But it kind of goes quite a bit beyond that. And that's why I'm interested in it, why I found it to be fascinating. And we keep on enjoying their expansions. Now, I think, are you looking at my iPad at the moment?
Yes, Ed.
Okay. All right. So here's a bunch of lists. And we'll get to all of these things as we go on. But I'm going to move this around just a little bit. There. I should be able to jump back and forth a little bit. So if I mentioned there's going to be grocery lists and to-do and packing and shopping, and that's kind of what you were seeing on the other screen. I'll come back to those in a minute. I'll talk about the versions and so on of AnyList. Basically, there's a free iOS version of AnyList where you can go download it and play with it. And that's probably a good thing to do if you are at all interested in this and you want to find out more. But AnyList Complete is $10 a year. And that's what you're going to be seeing mostly in what I talk about today. And I would strongly advise, if you're going to do it, sign up for $10 a year. It's a pretty good deal. It's web-based. There's a family version. I even recommend that stronger. Okay, so instead of 10, it's 15. That means you can now share it with other people, share it with your family members, and we'll get into the obvious advantages of that as we go along. Let me go back now to the iPad. And so here's all these lists. And when you want to create a list, you hit that plus sign up there. But this, go into, I'll create, well, I was going to talk about something else, but yeah. I've got folders. I'm working out of a folder right now, which is my demo folder. And you can create a new folder if you want, but the real thing I want you to do is create a list. So now you're going to create a list for something or other, and we'll talk about what that might be. Well, I have a list for groceries there, but let's say I wanted to have a list for a different kind of shopping. So I'm going to talk about a hardware store, perhaps. So I'll type in hardware, and it's going to be categorized. Now I've got some choices here: groceries, or categorized non-groceries, or just a basic thing without any categories at all. And the categories that we would talk about with hardware might be when you walk into a Home Depot or something, and you want to go to the electrical department, or you want to go to the plumbing department, or you want to go to the lumber department. And those might be the kind of categories that we would use in something like that. I can pick an icon for it. And I've got tons of choices for that. And so if I wanted to give this a sort of a cuter icon, if you will, let me say, well, it looks like a hammer. There's a couple of hammers that look pretty good. So now that's what it's going to look like on my demo list, or my list choices. And then the colors, I've got these choices, and red will be fine. So we'll do that. So I can go down here and say, yeah, I do want Amazon Alexa to be connected here, or Siri shortcuts. I tend to use Alexa more. It's just a couple of words simpler for me, but the Siri alternative would probably work pretty well as well for most of you. So which one you prefer? And there's also a Google one that I just don't know too much about, so I won't talk about it. So at this point, we'll say done. And now you've got my hardware list over here. Now, this is leftover from when I was playing before, but I'll make it go away. I'll make it come present. Okay, so that's, say I just added my hammer to that list, and now I'm going to add something else. Now I want to get the light bulbs. And notice I haven't done anything with the categories at this point, and I probably won't for this part of the demo, but it's just that easy to set something up, set up a new list for whatever purpose you have in mind. That's really all I needed for the hardware store right now, but we may need it to come back to it later. So I just click done to get myself out of there, and then I'll go back to my grocery demo. Okay, again, if I want to go grocery shopping for something, I can just start putting in whatever it is I want to shop for. Okay, if I want milk, I put in milk. And oh, you notice it sort of looked ahead and gave me a clue of what choices I might have. Let's try that again. Now you see, you want milk, you want chocolate milk, or you want whatever. And so I'll say, yeah, let's have some chocolate milk too. We'll put that on the list as well. And you'll notice also that it did pop those right into that dairy category. So it's smart enough to know what category various things are based on, well, there's some of it's automatic. The grocery type things are pretty automatic as it comes from AnyList. Things like a hardware store are not automatic, and I would have to create my own categories for that sort of a list. But if I wanted to bring in a whole bunch of things all at once, I didn't want to just one by one type them in, maybe I already have them someplace, and that's what this little symbol up here is for. And if I were to go and leave AnyList and go into notes, and I made a little list here of things that I may want to get, I'll just select that and copy it. And now I'm going to go back into AnyList and tap on that little clipboard up there and paste. Oops, that didn't work right. There, I paste it. Then when I say done, it puts them all right in my shopping list, categories and all. Now, yeah, we have our milk in there twice, but that's okay. We can get rid of stuff. So I've just added a few things, and now I have some organization to my shopping list. Okay, what else can I do with this thing? Notice we've got this eyeball thing up here, which says I'm just looking at the things that are still on my list. If I get rid of this other milk, double click it like I'm in the store, it goes away. It gets crossed out. If I change that eyeball to X'd out, then it disappears. If I look at my other choices up here, I can delete all the crossed off things. Let's do that. They crossed off, I'll delete them. I can shop online, list settings. Okay, we're going to go back to other things now. So I have got the beginnings of a shopping list here, a grocery list. Now, the order that these appear in has to do with the store you're shopping in. If I go into my list settings again, and I read down here a little bit, they've got some advanced settings. This thing talking about category sets. Now, what's kind of fun here is that they include some of what you might find on a website built right into the app, so you don't have to go looking and say, what is this about category sets? If I click in there, it's giving me an overview of it. It tells you more about what you can do with it while you're there. I think that's kind of a fun thing that they've done there. And they either turn these sets on or off. But I'm going to go back to my category sets. And originally I had it set up for untitled. That's sort of the way it comes to you. It comes up as an untitled category set. And then when I go back to here, things are in a different order. They're kind of in different places. But I didn't like that order because, as you saw, my other choice was Publix. So there's a Publix store near me. And when I walk in, I know kind of where the first two things are. And so referring back to just where I was, notice the beverages at the top, and then cereal, and then dairy. If I go back to my list settings And if I go back to my, is it the categories? Oh, categories. I went to the wrong one here. Excuse me. The category sets, and I check. Oh, by the way, if I hit the I here, it shows me what the categories are. Okay. And if I say done with that or cancel that, and then I go to publics, then I'll see mostly the same things, but in a different sequence. But I could add new categories or take some out, whatever seems appropriate to the store that I'm planning on shopping in. But I'll say done. So now I'm back in the Publix list again. That was sort of on the high end, a little bit geeky, but it's kind of nice to know you're able to do that. Go back to my list settings and done. So now, okay, now I'm back in Publix and no, am I? No, I'm not. I did a cancel. Excuse me. Let's go back in it again. Settings. It is. All right, I guess I did say that. Sorry. Because I was just looking at the wrong part of it. Yeah, dairy is under the end, and dairy is kind of at the end for me when I'm shopping in Publix. So that's why I wanted to make sure I had the right place here. And other things that just aren't on this list would come up first, like the deli or the bakery or whatever. Okay, so now you've got the basic idea of how to put stuff in your list. You do this at home, you do it in your car or whatever, using your iPad, your iPhone, your Mac, whatever. And then when you get in the store, you could be looking at your phone or looking at your watch and check these things off as you pick them up. And so I picked up my cereal and I just click on it and it goes away. That's no longer on my list. I took care of it. So that's how you go shopping with it. Now, let's talk about some other kinds of lists. We'll come back to more shopping a little bit later, but let's talk about a packing list, for example. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but if you're taking a longer trip, you're on the road, you're stopping every night at a different hotel or something like that, and you want to know where things are. So for example, I got a big suitcase and a carry-on and a garment bag, and where did I put something? So I know my shirts are in the big one, I got my shavers in the carry-on and so on. It's just nice to say, oh yeah, I know where that is, especially if you got more than 2 or 3 bags or boxes. And we do this as because we're snowbirds and we travel north to south, south to north, and we drive, and it takes several days to do it. And so we've got boxes and all kinds of things, and it may be useful to remember where that something or other is, and this list will help me find it. So that's all the point of that. But while I'm talking about that north to south and south to north trip, this inventory thing is kind of interesting. As we head north, before we head north, we can start building an inventory of things that we did leave behind that we expect to still be okay when we return in the fall. And so here, coffee, sugar, cookies. Cookies, really? Well, okay, if they're in the freezer. So, and I could specify freezer or whatever, but I've left those things behind. Certainly many more, but that was just a couple of examples to throw in there. So now when I'm heading south again, I don't have to remember to pick those up or whatever. But what I do want to remember to go shopping for is the next list. And again, we can start this list anytime. We can start this list before we leave, probably should. Throughout the entire period of time that we're gone, we can start building up a list of things that we know we are going to want within a few hours of when we return. So when you come back, the house has been empty for a while. There's no fresh food in the cupboards or in the refrigerator. So here's some things that you want to pick up, and you add to that list as you go. Starting maybe a week before you leave, and maybe finishing up 5 minutes before you get home. Say, look, what have I got to go shopping for? And then you can add things to the list, much as I did for the grocery demo up above. But now these are just the things that I want to pick up before we get to the house. So we will have what we need for the next meal, whether it's dinner or breakfast or whatever, just so you don't have to get to the house, turn around and run back out to the store. Of course, you also may want to have a little control on how many things you put there. If your car gets as full as mine does, there might not be room for a lot of bags. But anyhow, that's the thought with those two inventory and shopping, the two Naples things I did. And of course, I would have the same kind of list heading north to the other end of the trip. So it's just a handy way of doing things. Down here, my wife Teresa likes to use this when she's planning some kind of a party, a dinner party. And says, okay, I really like to have a list of what I need just for that party. And so, excuse me, I didn't tell the clock to be quiet. So she'll sit there and say, okay, I know that for this party, I'm going to add some things in here, and I know that we're going to need some wine, for example. I'm typing the wrong keyboard, sorry. Dinner party, add items, wine. And I'm going to need, let's say, some steak. And maybe I'm going to need, well, you get the idea, a dessert. And I'm going to need some beans for vegetables or whatever. But just whatever comes to mind, I've got to have all of these things. I got to go shopping at some point, or at least make sure they're available in the house. And so that's starting to plan for just that one event. Not worrying about everything else that you're going to need for the next week, but just what do I need for that one event? And then you can sort of embellish that, certainly, as we go, and then eventually turn it into a regular shopping list. But it's just focusing on one thing and not getting too messed up with anything else. And of course, there's no winning or losing on the thing if you decide that, oops, that wasn't really what I meant to do. I didn't want beans on there. I can take it off as if I had just picked it up at the store. And we do have the ability, I don't know if you noticed in one of those list things, whether you sort order, and you can specify sort order. And this one obviously is in some kind of a manual order, but you can have it sort alphabetically if you want to. And you can have it sort by, oh, I didn't get into the stores too much, but we can get into this, the stores in a few minutes. And anyhow, that's what this line is for, just for that sort of a list. Now, everybody needs a to-do list. So I'll say down to here, I'll go down to my to-dos. I should have mentioned right up front, and I know Mitch is present, and Mitch has talked to us in the past about, for a shopping list, how much he makes very good use of the Reminders app, which works very well. The Reminders app is great. But I think we do a little more here that I'm interested in with AnyList, and the price is cheap enough. But certainly, Reminders is a great place to put your to-dos. But if I'm living in AnyList a lot, why not put some in here too? And they don't give me, it's not going to give me the reminders to do this at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon like Reminders will, but it gives me a sense of, yeah, stuff on my to-do list that I should get taken care of. And now we're back down to my hardware list. So you've kind of seen that, oh no, I didn't get back, I skipped over Christmas shopping. That's interesting. One of the choices we have when you're setting up a list, I'll get back, I know I'm not in the right one here, but one of the choices that we have, as we go down through here, is a passcode lock, which I normally don't use. But if I turn the passcode lock on, that means nobody that has my iPhone, my iPad, my Mac, or anything like that is going to be able to see what's on that particular list. That's why I'm talking about my Christmas shopping or anything along those lines. So for Christmas shopping, I had a nice little gift icon there for it, and I cheated so that I wouldn't forget. I just put a passcode of 1111 on it. So when I open this up, in order to get in that thing, I've got to put my passcode in. Just keyed it in. Okay, there's my list. Okay, now I'm revealing a couple of other things here while I'm at it. I made categories for people this time. Okay, and let's say I was going to get some flowers for Teresa, and I was going to get candy for these other 3 girls, and a toy truck and a doll for the kids. And I can put those in there and start my Christmas shopping planning. But another thing we can do in every case is to say, yeah, we do want to put prices on things. So if I said that this is going to have a price on it, and what did I just say? I'm looking at whatever it was, candy, I think. So I'm going to do a $10 candy box or something here. So I can put that $10 in there. And I just did that. Okay, so now I got 10 bucks on this. I also have a running total down at the bottom of how much I'm spending on things. So that's getting a little high. Maybe Teresa doesn't need that iPhone right now. I can just take it off. So that's not there. I still have a total price tag there, and I can specify that I don't want to see crossed off items in this total. But that's just a choice you make as you go along. So that's a flexibility here. So that's why I've got this list here. I can do that sort of thing. Now, back to the food. One of the items I didn't mention earlier. Say down here. My list settings. I can specify stores. Okay, so I set up a bunch of stores here. I got Costco and Oaks and Price Chopper, Publix, Walmart, Wegmans. So I put different stores in here that I'm likely to be shopping in. And that's something that wasn't done for me. I had to create that list all by myself. Now, when I go back into the individual items on my list, excuse me, I can specify that if I'm going to get wine, for example, and I can specify that I could get wine at Costco and Oaks and maybe Publix, but that's it. That's just a guess. I'll just throw some things out there. And now you can see they're available at those stores there. If I said that I needed to get, oh, I'll put my steak back on this. I'm going to put a steak in here. And if I said that if I go shopping for a steak, I really know that I like steak. Costco and Oaks is my best places to get steaks. And so I'll save that information. So now I've set up a couple of different things. Everything else could fit almost any other store, for example. Now, one of the purposes of this funnel up here is to filter your list. So I'm going to filter my list and say, I am about to go to Costco. I've got to go shopping there. What do I need that I can get at Costco? So I just check that off, and now I've got those two things. I can get my steak and my wine at Costco, and I'm not going to find them at those other places, or at least I don't want to get them. So let's go and get the steak and the wine while I'm here. So that takes care of that part of the list. And so once I'm in there, I can click, satisfied that part of my shopping list. And if I go back to this and then I say, okay, everything else. So everything else is left on my list to go shopping for wherever. Okay. Was there something else in this department that's important? I don't think too much. We talked about well, quantities we can always change, certainly.
Can I ask you a question?
You certainly may.
While you're filtering, can you filter them by stores and not hide the other stores? Can it show all of the stores but filtered?
Let me see if I understand. So I'm filtering. I am looking at all of the stores here, and I can check off as many stores as I want.
Right, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But if that didn't answer your question, please keep going. Okay.
All right. Choose done. And can you unhide some of your items
Sure.
that you
Right.
So you have steak at Costco or
yes.
wine at Costco. Can you just sort by all items that have Costco or sort by all items that have Publix, but not have the filter hide the other items?
Good question. I do not know that. Okay, I don't know if I can sort by store. That's
Okay.
what, I guess that's what you're saying. I don't know if I can sort by store. I know that I've seen sort alphabetically or manually, and in this case of the categorized list, the items appear in the order that we set up for that category set for the list.
Mhm.
Actually set up for Publix in this case. But no, I can't answer your question, Sheeta. I'm not really sure if there's any way to sort by store.
Okay, great.
But thanks for asking.
Sure, because there are some items that I just know I'm going to get at Costco. There's some items that I know I'm going to get at Kroger. There's some items I know. So just by having those categories separated, I can sort of mark the Costco things off at one time and mark the Kroger things off when I'm at Kroger at one time. So that's the reason for the question.
Good question. Good point. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay.
So at this point, let me go back and let's see what I had on this thing here. Had a new list. We talked about that. We talked about the kinds of lists. We talked about features, I think. Okay, location reminders I didn't discuss. Okay, and that's kind of a fun thing. I haven't used it a lot. I played with it. It does work. And the idea is if I want to set up location reminders, I think that's up in here. Where am I going here? Where was it? Maybe at a higher level. The idea with location reminders is that, yeah, here's location-based reminders down here. So I can say, okay, here's a location for Publix, here's a location for Costco. I can set those up. I can add other locations. And if I have this thing turned on, then as I drive by or drive close to or drive into the parking lot of one of those stores, I'll get a reminder popping up on my watch or my phone or whatever saying, oh, hey, you're at Costco. You've got some things on your shopping list. You want to go in and get them? So it just sort of quickly prompts you to get those things that are on your list for that store, just in case you want to do that. So that was the whole point of coming back here for this purpose. And now what else do I have on this other list? We talked about pricing and aisles. Well, I didn't mention the aisles, but when I talked about sequencing the categories, that's kind of what I meant. And you could certainly put the aisle number in along with the category name if you want. And I step to the next thing. It says questions so far. So this is where I'll start answering any other questions that have come up for things I discussed so far.
All right, Joe Gamashia, can you go ahead?
So does the other person, if you're going to share a list, do they have to have the paid subscription or can they just have the free app? Because I see what says share a list.
Well, if I get the family setup, okay, so I get the family subscription that I pay $15 a year for. That's good for me and my wife and anybody else in my household. And if you say you're going to share it with somebody, you put in their I guess Apple ID, but an email address. You put in the email address, and then they just automatically know they're shared for that particular list. No, you don't need to have somebody buying something else. If it's somebody that's not a relative, not in your household, then they probably should have to have their own. They probably have to have the shared thing.
Okay,
But,
thank you. The second question I had was on the to-do list. I use Microsoft To Do, and you can arrange by days, like today, tomorrow, next week. Can you do that on this to-do list?
I haven't tried, but the way I think I set that up as a to-do list with no categories. But if you remember, I had three choices of categories or no categories or groceries. So if I made my to-do list a category-based list, then I certainly could have categories for today, tomorrow, or next week. However, it's not going to update automatically for you.
Right.
You follow me? Okay, you can put them
Yes,
in by
yes.
by category, but it's not like the reminders. I put in reminders in the reminder app, and I can then come up with a day and a time for a reminder to remind me.
Okay,
This won't do that.
thank you.
Ed, is there a limit on how many people you can have with the family share?
I have no idea. I haven't seen them tell me that. Of course, I've never tried more than one or two. So I really don't know how far that goes.
Okay, Mitch, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yeah, my question was, once you completed your shopping, does it save your list so that you can pull up items that you shopped for before and just check them off that you want to re-add them into your grocery or hardware or wherever?
Yeah, exactly. Hang on just a second. I'll point something out that I didn't point out before. I'm back on this list, and you see up at the top, I have this star and I have a clock. And I did hide things. So these things were things that I still had left on my list. And if I start getting rid of a few things here, because I picked them up. Now I want to shop for things that I shopped for before. That's what the clock is for. It's recent things. And it pops up and says, here's your recent items. And it goes back quite a ways. So the most recent ones at the top, and then the farther back are not. And I'm just reminding myself of something else I didn't tell you about, but I'll come back to that later. So that's, yes, you can do that. And the other is your favorites. You can specify things as favorites, and that's what the star is for. So that kind of, I think, may answer your question, Mitch.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Jim Corsica, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Ed, I have a numbers spreadsheet of my grocery list with maybe 200 items that I buy every so often, some frequently. Is there any way to import a numbers spreadsheet, either by section or completely to AnyList?
Well, I haven't tried doing exactly that, but
I'm trying to avoid the typing.
oh, I can understand that. I certainly understand that. Yeah. When I'm up in, yeah, you're seeing my AnyList thing. This little clipboard thing that I pointed out before, I would expect that if I can then export a list of items, you know, without all the other stuff, but basically a list of items from numbers, and then paste them in here as just rows of text. And then the example I used earlier was bringing in just a few things from notes, but I can see selecting a column of numbers and pasting it in here, and then just say done, and they're all going to wind up in my list. Okay, and they're all going to wind up as I need it right now, but then you can go through and cross them out. Okay, but yeah, so I think you can do that. As to other aspects of it, of course, that's grocery items. They're probably mostly going to show up with appropriate categories. If it was some non-grocery things, they probably would just all wind up in other. But yeah, I think you could do that. I don't know if I'd try a couple hundred of them, but I might try a few at a time and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you could get away with doing that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Jim. Stephen Ramirez, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Do you have any favorite, maybe 3 or 2 features that AnyList offers that the Apple Reminders app does not have?
Probably my most favorite of the whole thing is the list sharing concept. And I don't know that I could do that right off the top of my head with reminders. So my wife is out driving around. She's going to be stopping at a store, and suddenly I realized that we're out of beer. And so I can just put beer on the list. And when she gets to the store, it's going to be on her list. I don't know that I could do that with reminders. That's probably my top favorite thing, that we can do this. And by the way, she's also, depending on how she has it set up on her phone, and she does have it set up this way. When I put something new on the list, she gets alert. Little phone dings and says, oh yeah, somebody just add something to your shopping list. So that's probably my my favorite, but then there's a couple more that I haven't covered yet. That we'll cover in the next portion of the talk.
Okay, thank you. And you can do that with reminders, Ed. You can share the list.
I didn't know I could share my reminders. Thanks for telling me.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, all yours.
Okay. One thing that I had meant to cover earlier and I didn't, which is kind of too bad. But when I add something back to my list here. I'm getting some ketchup. And so I put that on the list. But you know, it's interesting. You go in the store and there's different companies that make ketchup. And I know that we have a preference for a certain kind of ketchup, and I want to make sure that whoever's at the store buys the right stuff. Okay. Now, when I said we have, it makes me more appropriate to say my wife has a preference for something that I might not know her preference, and I might pick up the wrong one. But when I go into the setup here, notice they've got a thing over this says add a photo. So now she can take a photo of ketchup. I happen to have a ketchup bottle here, and there it is. Okay, so here's my ketchup bottle, and I'll just take a picture of it, and I'll use that photo. So now that ketchup has that picture on it. So imagine things more exciting than ketchup that you have specific preferences for. You certainly wouldn't do it for everything. But now I'm in the store and I've got these 3 things to pick up, and I say, "There's a picture for ketchup. Let's see what she has in mind." So this is just basically what I'd say on my iPhone. And I click on that, and there's that picture. And now I can say, "Oh, she wants that one." So that's another one of my favorite features. We don't use it that often, but when we do, I find it very valuable. So that was that. So what was I going to get into next? Okay.
Ed, is there
Yes.
a way to say what aisle the item is in?
Yeah. I'll go back into that. When I was talking about, let's get back to it. I got to say done. Let's say done. Okay. Where am I here? The settings. And if I'm in my stores, no, that's not the right one. Keep forgetting where I was. I'm going to come to this one. No. One of these things, I had all these category things. Where did I put the categories? This settings, it was in the advanced categories. Okay. When I'm in these categories, I can edit them. So I can edit each one of these and put an aisle number in front of it or after it. So if I said the baby things, okay, I guess I'd have to type it in here, but I could put in baby is in aisle 6. Okay. And say done. And then you put something in the baby category, it's going to wind up and tell you go to aisle 6, or you can put 6 in front of it if you like. And again, you can say, well, this is not the first thing in line, and I get to use the little 3-line thing, and I can put it somewhere else. So yeah, you can sort these things, sort the categories by aisle number, but you can also label the aisle number on the category name. Does that help?
Yes and no. Are categories related to all stores or just one specific store? That makes a difference in the aisle information.
Oh yeah, it does. And that's why I had the choice of the advanced category settings, I think, or the category sets. I've got to go back to where's the sets. In the category sets, when I've lost them. They were there when I was talking about them before, and now I don't have the category sets.
Advanced categories?
I think that's where I just went. It tells you about category sets.
Oh, okay.
But you can, what you do is you can set up.
You have it turn on category sets.
Thank you. I thought I had it on before. I turned it off in the process of messing around with things.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But when I get into setting up the category sets, I can create a category set for each store if I want.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
I've
okay,
got the default ones I set up on that I showed you before for Publix. I can create a new category set for Costco or for Kroger or for whatever I want, and then say that's the one, that's the set I want to work with. It doesn't change anything on my shopping list, but it puts them in a different sequence, but puts them in the categories and the aisles of the sequence that you want
Right.
them to be at in that store.
okay, great.
Can I ask,
get-
can I ask a question based on Sheila's question also?
Okay.
Is there anything in this program where you would walk into like Costco and it would actually organize your list by aisle or tell you where to go for it?
Wouldn't that be nice? No,
It would
not that
be.
I know of. The only
Okay.
answer I have for that is that and it's something you don't do around here, that you go shopping at a store called Wegmans.
Right.
Wegmans has their own app that does that. And with whichever Wegmans you walk into, it'll update that stuff on the app on your phone. But I don't have a Wegmans to shop at around here.
I wonder if Publix has that, because I know that
No.
a lot of the grocery stores are copying some of the things that Wegmans is famous.
Yeah, I don't believe they do. I would have known about it, I think, if they did. But it's a good question.
Okay, all yours.
Okay. So let's see where else I was going to go next. I think I know where I'm going to go next, but let's see. Back to basics. I said, okay, so this thing says at the bottom. It's the bottom on the iPhone, on the iPad. It's up on the left side of the screen where you can see lists and recipes and meal plans and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, what are you doing in here? I don't want you there. So let's talk about some of these things. I'm gonna get back to the iPad. And now let's talk about recipes. Oops, I came over to Manhattan. That's a good starting point. Let's go back. There are lots of different, well, there's all recipes, but there's a table of contents, if you will, of recipes, and most of these are categories that they provide for you. I'm sorry, I've got to go back. This is by name, by source. I don't want source. I want there, category. Categories of recipes. So you got main dishes and side dishes and drinks and so on. So I got all these different things, and I can look and see what the choices are. Yeah, what am I doing now? Let me get out of here. Well, I can't click the Mac if you want the iPad to do something. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Okay. So here's a bunch of main dish choices. All right. And I go back and I say, well, what are my snack choices? So here's some snack choices. Okay. And so there's all recipes. If I take any particular one, I want these chocolate chip cookies. And then, hey, view the full recipe. There it is. I've got the preparation steps. I got the ingredients. Sometimes they tell you the prep time and the cook time, and this one they did not. You have a scaling capability where you can cut it in half or double it. Oh, and down here you can go bigger. You say, well, I want to go up to 3 times or whatever. You can scale your recipe based on however you want to do it. And then here's all your stuff. Okay, so that's a nice thing to have. All right, now let's take it a step further. Now I want something that I don't have here. Let's look at my desserts. And I got a bunch of stuff here, but I want to make a chocolate cake. So how am I going to find a chocolate cake? I could look it up in my cookbook and put them all in, but let's not do it that way. Let's go out here to Safari and let's look in here for chocolate cake. Oops. And there's a chocolate cake recipe. So that's for that. And now I got some choices, and maybe I'll try this chocolate cake recipe. It says all recipes, or maybe not. Let's see who else we got. Martha Stewart's always fun. Let's try Martha. So click on the Martha Stewart choice, and she's got several different recipes here, but this one bowl chocolate cake sounds like a fun thing to do. So let's go for that one. And now here's Martha's recipe. Okay, takes 25 minutes. Cook it for an hour and 25 minutes, or a total of an hour and 25 minutes. Serves 12 people, and here's all the stuff it needs. Now I want to get that into my recipes. So I go up here to that old share square thing. I come on down, and AnyList recipe import. How about that? It imports the recipe for me. Save it. And now if I go back into AnyList, then back to, oh, it's not in my desserts. Just because I didn't say I wanted it in desserts. It's not in the collection. There it is. Now I open it up, and there's the recipe, and I got to put it in the dessert group. All right. So now it is one of my desserts. Here it is down at the bottom of the dessert list. And again, I've got a full recipe here. It tells me prep time is 25 minutes. Didn't say what the cooking time is. Serves 12. Scale it up or down. Here's all the ingredients, and here's the instructions. Oh, and a reference to where I got it from. So there's the source of it. And so I've done that. I now have my recipe in there, and I want to make the cake. But I got a couple other things I want to do too. Let's start with making the cake. I'm looking at the whole recipe here. Let's add those all to my shopping list. Boom, I just put them on my shopping list. And now I'm here, I'm going to plan something for a party or for dinner tomorrow night or whatever. Go back to my main dishes. And let's say I want to have meatloaf. There's a meatloaf recipe. Put those on my list. And then I'll look at side dishes. There's a salad that I kind of like, so I'll put that in there and add that to my list. Now I've got 3 items: the cake, the salad, and the meatloaf, all added to my shopping list. So now I return to my list. There it is. Look at all that stuff on there. I have all those things in there. If you look at them, you can see what each one of those things is for. And I don't know that we have anything that overlaps here, but if we did, it would show them both here. It would show that this is used both the meatloaf and the salad or whatever. So now I'm ready to go shopping. Of course, I'm not quite ready to go shopping yet, but because I've got to clean this thing up a little bit. So I go through here and say, well, okay, I don't need fresh lemon juice. I already have that. So just take it off the list. That's easy enough. And I don't need sugar. You get the idea. You just get rid of the things that you know you have on the shelf you don't need to have on your shopping list. And then you're ready to head for the store. And while we're at it, we've got this button over here for a meal plan. If this is for, let's say for tomorrow, and I got to start planning my meal ahead of time, or my meal plan for the next week, because my wife's out of town. I better know that I'm going to have that something in there. So I've got to say, what am I going to put in here? And I'm going to add a recipe. And so in the main dishes, I know I'm going to have the meatloaf, and done. And in the side dishes, and I'm going to have that salad. And then again, in the desserts, I'm going to have my chocolate cake. It's pretty brave of me making a chocolate cake just for myself. But okay, so now there's our meal plan. Okay, so This isn't always the most important thing to do. You can see I've got a little dot on the 10th there, and I can say, okay, I got some meal planned for tomorrow, and I can look at it. Yep, that's what's there. And oh, by the way, I got to go shopping. And this is sort of where I go back to this. What else am I going to see on here? Oh, there's looking at the recipes. I saw all that. I saw that. I saw that. I changed my mind about the apple pie. But this is I guess the important thing was that there's a point here where Steve Jobs always used to say, just one more thing. There it is. One more thing. You throw that at you at the end of the presentation and then tell you about an iPhone. So the one more thing is, back to my shopping list. One more thing is that I get down to this point here where I'm ready to go shopping, and I look at this list here, and it says shop online. Oh, I could say I'm at, this is, whoops, just a number here. And then it says, okay, I can go shopping, I can shop online with Walmart, with Instacart, or with Shipt. Now, I don't have these things all set up in my system, but so if I did, I'd go to Instacart and I could pick out Publix, for example, because they're in there. And then I could send them all over as much of my shopping list as I want. Have somebody do all the shopping for me and bring it to my door, or bring it up to the curb and I'll go pick it up, which I thought was kind of a neat feature here. But I am sorry that we don't have any ability in AnyList anyhow for them to send a chef to the kitchen and have them make the meals for me, or to serve it, or send me a bartender, or welcome the guest. But AnyList goes just as far as it can, and I think there's some neat stuff in there, and I just appreciate that they keep adding nifty things like shopping online to it. So that's about all I got. And so, are there any more questions for you?
I have a question. Show
Good.
all services. I do have a question. Show all services. Are there more online services available than the 3 listed here? Like
That depends. That's well, let's see what it says. Show all services. Some of these services may not be available in your area. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Let's go back to showing you what you want to see. There you go. There's the show all services.
Okay.
So you got
All
Kroger.
right.
You mentioned Kroger. They're in there. You got several.
Okay. All right. Ann McKay, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please? Go ahead.
I'm
Ann.
not too sure what my question was because I've switched from an iPad to an iPhone and a Mac. So the chat didn't stay.
Do you have any idea what you were going to ask? You raised your hand.
Oh, that was a mistake.
Oh, all right. All right. Thank you. Okay. Margot White, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, hi. You said that you preferred working with Alexa to working with Siri and relating to the list. Could you sort of go into how you work with Alexa?
Okay. Yeah. Well, in setting up AnyList, at some point, if you say you want to use Alexa, then they tell you you have to go to the Alexa preferences or whatever the system and go to where it talks about skills. And there's a skill there for AnyList. And so you do that, and it's been a while since I've done it. You may or may not need to specify the list names that are in AnyList, and maybe it just figures that out. So when I'm using Alexa and I just say, Alexa, put milk on my grocery list, and she does. Of course, if I can say that to Alexa without AnyList, and then Alexa has her own sets of lists that she keeps for you. And it just, for me, they're not tied in with anything else, so I don't tend to use those. But that's how you use it with Alexa. With Siri, you say, hey, Siri, tell AnyList to put milk on my grocery list. It's almost the same, but I just tend to talk more to Alexa than I do to Siri.
So I do have a grocery list on Alexa, so I'll just cross off her grocery list and then she'll know to go to the AnyList grocery.
Yeah, you would, yeah, you might want to pick a different name for it, but yeah, or change the list name in Alexa. Yeah, you want to have a different name for them just to avoid confusion.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Donna Warnock, can you please unmute yourself and I think ask your question? And I think it's been answered, but go ahead and ask it.
Oh, I didn't catch an answer. I use Instacart regularly, and I enter each item into the app individually. Now, from what Ed said, it sounded like he could just ship over his whole list and in one fell swoop get Publix or Instacart to take the whole list. That would save a tremendous amount of time. Is that really the way it works?
I believe that it is, although I will admit that I have not tried that. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of putting that shopping online. You've got this list here. Why? So they're doing something. They're going to transfer your list or the ones you want them to have and put them into the Instacart order.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And if someone tries this, because we're getting a lot of love from AnyList in the chat, if someone tries this, please give us feedback. All right.
Please do. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Keith Kaiser, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question about the family plan?
Yes. Good afternoon. Oh, good morning still, I guess. I have a Mac and I have a laptop, and my wife has a laptop. Can we put a family plan on all three machines?
Absolutely. Certainly. Yes.
Good deal. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Lawrence Jenkins, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, it seems like a great product. What is it? Do you pay once for it, or is it a subscription? Thank you.
It's a subscription. Again, you get the free one, and the free one is free, but that's very limited. The one that I like best, of course, is the family plan for $15, and that's $15 a year. So you do it once, and then it'll charge you $15 every year to renew the subscription unless you cancel it.
Great. Nello, can you unmute yourself? You say you've used AnyList?
Yes, with Omicron soaring, we tried to be prepared for being sick and doing online shopping. So we gave it a trial run, and it does in fact transfer what you've written in AnyList, what you've typed in AnyList, to the service. We tried it out on Costco, Instacart with Instacart with Costco, Instacart with a grocery chain in this area called Mariano's, as well as we also tried the third place, Amazon Fresh. And so it transfers your list, and then one at a time, it presents you with what it thinks are the best matches for what you've described on the list, and you have to choose yes or no or substitute, or they do their best job at guessing. So the bottom line is, the more specific, exact you can make your descriptions. Like if you want to buy ketchup, well, there's a lot of choices, different brands, different sizes. If in your list you say, I want Heinz ketchup in 30-ounce container, then you're going to get a nice match, right? But if you just leave it more free form, you're going to have to do a lot of hunting and pecking to select exactly what you want. Does that make sense?
Perfectly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Firsthand knowledge of use of the product. That is wonderful.
It works. It's very slick.
Okay. All
and
right.
I should also add that feature of online shopping, as I recall, Ed may be able to confirm this. As I recall, that and several other features are only for the paid subscription.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nello. Greatly appreciated. All right, Ed, you have 1 minute.
I have, well, let's see, is it not, I don't think there's anything else that I need to add to this. I really appreciate what Nello had to say. I do have, well, a very short anecdote about about the online shopping that had nothing to do with using AnyList. We had what's the shopping tool? Instacart. We had a couple of years ago used Instacart just by, I guess, on the internet to order certain things. And I know that one of the things that my wife put on was eggnog. She wanted to pick up some eggnog. It was Christmas time. And sure enough, the guy comes in a couple of hours and here's the list of things. And he puts this thing down on the driveway and says, okay, here's what you got. And there's this box of pasta. She said, I didn't know that. Yes, you did right here. See, you said egg noodles. He was not, English was not his first language. he gave us egg noodles instead of eggnog. So.
All right, so beware. All right, thank you so much, Ed.